Well, thank you for staying with us. We're getting into the papers and beyond, and we'll also be interacting with Ni Ayi of the Economic Fighters League. He'll be joining the conversation via Zoom. But in studio, we have Manuel Krante. Good morning, Manuel.
Good morning, Ben. Good
You're always looking fly. The handsome man.
Oh, you are looking fly. And it's good to be back. Well, it's already a week.
It's been a week already.
Wow.
Last Friday was the bomb, and here we are again doing this. But right before we get into the papers, there's something we put out as a group yesterday, and it just hit me. When was the last time you changed your sponge?
Hey! Because, fortunately for me.
Yeah, you're in a comfortable lead.
Yes. I had a couple of trips, out of town trips. The ending part.
Simple question. When was the last time you changed your sponge?
This is less than 3 months ago. So, yes.
So thanks to that journey you had to embark on.
I think
prior to that.
The substantive issue is that I changed the past 3 months. And I think we should just stay there. Let's not go practice there.
Okay. To be honest, I bought my last sponge in... Come to think of it, I don't remember. Now I'm being serious. I don't remember. You know, sometimes you have this affinity, you develop this sentimental attachment to your sponge.
Whoever is in Akapo's house, please, before he comes, you have to take it away from the bathroom.
No. When was the last time you changed your sponge? But we'll be telling you more from the papers this morning. I have the Daily Graphic, the Daily Guide newspaper, Republic Press, and BNFT. What do you have?
I have the Daily Statesman, the Ghanaian Publisher, the Custodian, the Ghanaian Times, and the Finder newspaper. Okay,
so which one are you starting with?
Let me start off with the Ghanaian Times, the most authoritative newspaper. And the banner headline says, Appiatse Support Fund President donates 100,000 Ghana cedis towards reconstruction of the community. Also, government pay 14 million Ghana cedis compensation to poultry farmers affected by bird flu. Also on the front page, Ghana's first private jet terminal opens at the Kotoka International Airport today. And MTN Group recommits to help grow telco industry. The back page leads with some sports stories. Kotoko, revenge over Olympics. Oli Dade, Oli Konson, Oli Rosalinda. Now they added another.
There are many more.
Oh, yeah, they added Oli Omicron.
Only Omicron. Then go deal with you. Only no size. But some of them are not television friendly.
Yes.
Some of them you can't mention. It's just Oli Gbogbo.
Yes, and Tunisia captain calls for focus ahead of Burkina Faso quarter final tie. Tunisia actually, they won just one of their group stage games.
Yep.
And Nigeria won all three.
Yep.
They met in
this life no balance. This life no balance.
Met in the 1/16 stage and
stumbled to them.
Actually, yes.
But you see, it's there's always this rivalry, if you've noticed, between the North African and West African sides. So I think even when you look at them now, there are 3 West African sides, 3 North African sides. Of course, Cameroon is technically not in West Africa, so they are in a different place. So I think it's going to be competitive. The only thing that I feel will not work for the North Africans is that 2 of them have been paired. Egypt, I think, together with Morocco or something like that. So that will not, work in their interest.
Well, more headlines from the Finder. E-levy public meetings kick off with explanations on intended usage of proceeds. Judge orders ENI Vitol to pay 30% oil revenue to court registrar. And Ghana, key partner in global, regional, economic and security matters. That's U.S. Secretary of State to Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And also, bird flu affects 695,607 birds in 10 regions. That's according to Dr. Awusu Friakoto, the Agri Minister. And that story about the president donating 100,000 Ghana cedis to Appiatse rebuilding fund, if you like, is also on the front page of the Finder newspaper.
Let's do the Daily Graphic newspaper now. And first, private jet terminal opens today. And I'm talking about that which a certain Dr. Daniel Macaulay is behind. That story is on page 20. Introduce innovative ways to mobilize revenue. New Year School urges government. That's on page 13. I'll just take a quick look at that, because when we're talking E-levy and the rest, and we're also talking about innovative ways, I want to see what they have to say. So this New Year School and Conference has ended in Accra. This year's New Year School and Conference has ended in Accra with a call on the government to introduce innovative ways of mobilizing domestic revenue while cutting down on unnecessary expenditure and wastage in the public sector. It has also been urged to improve on its data collection efforts to help with policy targeting in the future, which will save the country resources to be used for important sectors. You know, the last time we had Dr. Dixon, I believe, the Member of Parliament for Mpoho, he was talking about the fact that, well, the E-levy is crucial to our national development and all of that. But there was also talk about the fact that we need to innovate and go beyond the rudimentary or very common ways of, you know, raising funds. So I'm wondering how they are going to take all of this in moving forward. But staying on that same beat, revenue generation, E-levy, the Member of Parliament was also saying, you remember the 12 billion wastage economically that the Auditor General's report revealed. He was saying that, well, not all 15 billion, so to speak, was as a result of maybe politicians or their workings. There were a lot of things that goes into that, and that there are some errors they found. And so basically the sum doesn't even get to the 12 or the 15 billion in a larger picture. But we all know what happened yesterday. E-levy best revenue generation option, according to panelists. Which panelists? Well, 2 ministers and a parliamentarian have touted the proposed E-levy as the best option for the generation of revenue for national development. Speaking at a town hall meeting in Koforidua, the Eastern Regional Capital, the Minister of Finance, Mr. Ken Oforiatta, the Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Mrs. Ursula Owusu-Ekufo, and the Deputy Majority Leader in Parliament, Mr. Alexander Afenyo-Markin, therefore called for support for the passage of the E-levy bill by the country, by Parliament, so to speak.
And we know that the Finance Minister, in his efforts to engage and consult ahead of the return of the controversial bill to Parliament, yesterday attempted actually to meet the minority in the House. Well, what we're told is that the minority, you know, went into the meeting and asked that the meeting be rescheduled to today because, you know, the argument is that it's not a matter of just camping a number of ranking members on different parliamentary committees and all of that, and having the leadership of the minority. There's a bigger, you know, if you like, group.
But the picture was, and I think the crux or the thrust of their entire discussion was this, at least from the minority side. It's not about meeting, like you said. It's about being willing to listen and, you know, judge on the matter. So basically, you met us to tell us
what you want.
This is what we're going to do. And that is what, when the minority said, I felt, well, how does that reflect on the bigger picture? Because mind you, the Right Honourable Bagman is going to get medical aid. I mean, soon, again, for about a month, he's going to be away. What that means is you're going to need a certain Joe Osei-Wusu to sit in his seat. Now, if there's an attempt by Joe Osei-Wusu to vote, that is what triggered, at some point, the so it can only lead to more. I mean, you can envisage, hopefully not, but you can envisage that it will get there again. Violence will erupt and all of that. And we don't want to see those scenes. So you would have expected that there would be more in terms of the engagement. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be that way, especially also when you have the chief whip on the minority side, Honorable Muntaka, saying that he cannot guarantee that they will not get violent again. I really don't know. I really don't know.
And you see, so there's a report that we have, at least from the Fix the Country campaigners. Well, they say yesterday they were
thrown out
to also participate in this so-called consultation, as they claim.
Did you just say so-called?
Well, they say, I'm just reporting the Fix the Country movement. They say they were thrown out. In fact, Oliver Baka-Vomawo alleges that some of his members were assaulted, and they have lodged complaints with the Ghana Police Service and are expecting, you know, speedy investigations into the matter. But again, it brings into question, okay, who was invited to come into this particular consultation? Who were we consulting anyways? And
were we consulting? Were we even consulting? Or was it a house?
It was a number of presentations that I saw. I don't know where if that is consultation, but in Parliament. Well, I saw presentations.
What are you insinuating?
Or did you see something else? Did you see something else?
No, I'm just asking what you're insinuating.
Well, I'm just saying that I saw a number of presentations, and I thought that consultations will essentially be a jaw,
right?
You know, a give and take,
right?
Okay, you know, sharing of ideas.
I totally, I agree with you. I feel through this process that has been the major flaw. It's not been interactive. It's not been kabi, namin kabi, namin chow madre, namin mo who says say namin. You know, it's exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. And I feel that has been the problem so far. Because look, we've been out there in Kumasi and other places. I think it was in Kumasi where about 90% of those we spoke to said, no, you get it. So I feel it must be genuinely consultative if we want to do it this way. And that, we must be willing to listen. I don't think that, look, it's like, I always go back to VAT, how VAT started and the pushback. Because believe it or not, there was not a proper understanding of the value added tax. But today it's common. So I think it's about how it's managed, but even where it's being pegged at for a start, I feel it's unhealthy. I just don't have the screenshot here. But yesterday I saw this bit on another platform where, you look at the equivalents, 100 CDs, instead of maybe 1 CD, now you're going to be paying about 4+ CDs, almost 5 CDs. Yeah. If you're transferring 5,000 CDs, you're going to be paying almost 100 CDs. You know what that is? Yeah. From just 10 CDs, you're going to. So these are the dynamics people ought to know. And if you want us to dig into our pockets, you must also be willing, on the other end, to show us that demonstrably, this year, these are the things we're going to do so that your tax money or your levies are going to be accounted for so that the wastage in the system is cut down. Exactly. But when there's this level of waste and you're still calling on me to, fork out money from my pockets, I look at you like, Well,
the experts are, as it were, sensing a potential clash again in Parliament. Dr. Rashid Rahman is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, and he's been urging Parliament to tone down on disagreements during deliberations and dialogue instead to strengthen the democracy. Here's a quote from him. I expect the House to tone down on disagreements during deliberations and resort to dialogue instead to avoid low moments that occurred last year during proceedings on the floor of the House, end quote. And the flip side of this conversation will be that, well, the minority has said that, we can't guarantee, that we are not going to have a clash if somebody decides to vote when, in our thinking, he should not vote.
Somebody is going to be Joseph Osei-Usu.
Yes. And the majority also, at least we've heard Dr. John Kuma, who's the Deputy Finance Minister, say that with or without the support of the minority in the House, they are going to go ahead and pass the levy. This statement really preceded the consultations that we're now seeing. Finance Minister meeting the minority, Finance Minister holding town halls in Koforidua, etc., and all of those. If you are going to consult us, and ahead of this consultation, you serve us a warning that, hey, look, I come to consult you, but you better behave, because with or without you, we are going to pass it. Then to what end is this consultation anyways? I
don't know whether, I don't know. Pardon my using this word here, but I don't know whether it is ego, whether it is intransigence, or whatever it is. But I feel that from both sides, the NDC and the MPP, they've not shown enough will to bring a conclusion to this. And a conclusion to this must not necessarily mean we have kicked against the E-levy, and a conclusion to this must not also necessarily mean we are definitely going ahead with it. But you see them, like you're saying, digging their heels in, intransigent. Oh, sir, okay, make we do.
We'll see.
And I don't feel, in leading to Tuesday, okay, and there have been so many attacks, so to speak, and that is what I'll call them. When you say that the speaker is not willing to work with you for, some of the comments that have come, and then the take backs, oh, I didn't say that. I feel that's the same speaker who supposedly would have been sitting, right? How do you think that person would feel knowing that these are the things you've said about? I just don't get it, but I suppose they know things we don't. Are you a member of parliament? Are you a member of parliament? Am I? I'm not.
I am not a member of parliament.
We go do so now.
We wish them all the very best. And Ben, for the sake of providing context, we know that last year the minority made certain demands that the threshold of the 1.75 be brought down to 1%.
But you know that has been thrown out. It's been jettisoned now because
I'm saying that in terms of exchanging, if you like, concessions,
right,
and making sure that okay, I step down on my demands, while you also step down on your demands. There's been an attempt that we know of. Bring the threshold from 1.75 to 1%. We increase the amount taxable from 100 Ghana cedis, upwards.
Maybe to about 500 or 1,000. Yeah.
We know all of these things, but all of them have been, at least with the benefit of where we are now, have been.
You know what comes to mind? I feel opportunities have been lost. Because at that time, when the minority leader, though he wasn't speaking for his caucus, when he interacted with the telcos and all of that, because we had the Tamale Central MP, speak here and say that was in a certain context. It wasn't representative of the caucus. I feel if maybe the majority side had waded into that quickly and said, okay, let's try this out. Let's do it. It may have worked because the minority leader at that time, he was hot on having said that. But now it has cooled off and they are back to, we don't want, in fact, the other day when I was interacting with the Tamale Central MP, he said 0.00%. In other words, nothing. Shit. That is what they want. So right now, I mean, the work is cut out for the majority side in Parliament, and we'll see how it works out. But that feeds into something else. You wanted to chip in something.
Well, I want to take you to Appiatse.
Before we go there, how do you react to this bit on myjoyonline.com? Muntaka Mubarak, the chief whip, saying, we have moles in the MPP's camp. In fact, the same moles who helped us win the speakership.
Race. And I mean, if you are privy to parliamentary proceedings and the rudiments really in the House, this is really nothing.
It's not new.
Because essentially, the whip's job is to be able to
get your people to do the right thing and then infiltrate if you can.
Exactly. And Muntaka Mubarak, rightly admits that, I know also that there are moles in my camp for the benefit of the MPP.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is pretty normal. But to the end that, and it gives me the sense, so he makes an argument on the back of this sort of infighting, if you like, and some of the MPs being disgruntled because they are not put on certain committees that they ordinarily would have.
They didn't get, they had been lobbied for certain ministerial roles and they dumped all of a sudden. So
and so this sort of, these are weaklings and some openings that you can actually exploit for the benefit of your side. But it brings into question really the independence of our MPs in the House. I mean, what sort of parliamentary system are we running? Are we running, a trusteeship system where, we have asked them to go to Parliament and do whatever they think that is good for us?
But let's face it, even in very established democracies, whether it's in the UK and the House of Commons and the House of Lords, or in the US, the Senate or whatever, or the Knesset in Israel, these whipping systems exist. It's just that I feel they have an ability, or at least their systems allow them to be able to express free thought, but not without consequences. You've seen former President Trump go after certain people for not doing a certain line. So, I mean, there are pushbacks, but I feel in the end, these people ought to do what they do, bearing in mind the people they represent, their constituency. And I feel that is where they are missing the plot. Because look, I feel if we conducted a poll in this country today, or some sort of referendum, let me just put it that way, those for the E-levy say aye, those against the E-levy say nay. And I feel it's because proper education has not been given still, and I feel it's been too much of this is it, and you have to accept it. I feel those problems are even making some people who would have supported it sit back and say, look, how can you just force it down my throat and think I'm going to swallow, you know? But it is what it is. Let's check out some more papers.
Well, let's look at Appiatse, and let me take you to page number 17 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And you know that relief fund that was established for the victims of Appiatse, and on the center spread of the Ghanaian Times, Appiatse Support Fund, President donates 100,000 Ghana cedis towards reconstruction of community. And the President Akufo-Addo has pledged to make a personal donation of 100,000 Ghana cedis to Appiatse Support Fund established by government to support victims of last week's explosion at Appiatse in the Western region. Now, the fund was established by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to raise money to rebuild the village and support victims of the explosion. Now, the accident, which claimed 17 lives and caused injuries to hundreds of people, occurred when a truck carrying explosives for mining detonated after an accident. So it goes on to give other details of this particular story. But now it's a call to action, essentially, being led by Reverend Dr. Mrs. Joyce Ayi, who is chair of this particular committee tasked to raise funds. My problem, however, and we've had our hearts go out to the Appiatse victims. We support where we can. But the funds need to be used for what they are intended for. And there's a relation that...
Isn't that the major problem with even when there are occasions for us to, you know, for NADMO and co to step in? How many days after the Appiatse incident had those affected not received? In fact, there were items that had been taken there, not yet distributed.
Distributed.
By what stretch of imagination? So someone could die, suffer certain dire consequences on the back of the fact that not a lack or paucity of the items, but the fact that they've not been distributed. How does that make any sense?
Ben, you don't need to go far to say that someone could. In fact, what we know from the ground this morning is that per medical assessment by ENT, doctors on the ground, a lot of the people on the, in the community are now having ear infections. You know why?
Why?
There were prescriptions for them after their initial
diagnosis. Of course, that loud explosion.
Exactly. There were prescriptions for them. They're supposed to get the medications. They could not get the medications. And so in a span of a week, a lot of them, are now having ear infections, with some of them showing, mild to moderate signs of muteness. Some of them cannot talk. Some of them cannot hear. And it's all because there's been a laxity, really, in the deployment of medications which were prescribed by the doctors after the initial medical assessment. And so already,
the impact is being felt. Some people are nearing deafness simply on the back of the fact that
delay in
timeliness was not paid attention to. And that reminds me, even the bit about distributing items, right? You remember the Ghana Psychiatric Association had to step in, intervene. Mind you, the first time they went there, I don't know whether they've been there again, all the things that were taken were basically with assistance from the GMA and all of that. No assistance from establishment as it stood. And per their report, some people are contemplating suicide. Some people are getting suicidal on the back of that, which is, it happens on the back of these incidents. So if much needed help doesn't come rapidly, then you know that you could push someone to the brink, and what would we have done as a system? So I think...
And I think we need to commend the medical officers who are on the ground
maddening
assessment,
sometimes.
Except we need to be, timeous, really, with some of these interventions. And I was going to make a reference to the COVID-19 Trust Fund, the same National COVID-19 Trust Fund, which solicited donations from the public, from corporate Ghana, and so on and so forth. It will shock you that after an audit and so on into the usage of the funds, about 40,000 Ghana cedis is doled out to not somebody with COVID complications, not a hospital needing, consumables, medical supplies, and all of those, but to the National Union of Ghana Students for its annual leadership conference and handing over event. The National COVID-19 Trust Fund, with a direct, TOR and means of usage and all of those. We give the money to National Union of Ghana Students for what? A leadership conference and handing over. And so,
do you honestly want me to comment on this?
No, you don't need to comment.
Are you looking for trouble for me?
I hope.
No,
but I hope against all of hopes that the Appiatse relief fund or support fund will be disbursed really just as it has been intended to do, and really timeously.
Let's do this, and just to wrap, Manuel, I want to do this story from the BNFT. July deadline for Bank of Ghana's Ghana Card Directive too close. That's according to customers. I don't know how you feel about this entire development, but yesterday I was interacting with someone who had just attempted getting the Ghana Card, not for the first time, and the date when she must go for her biometrics is in June. Okay. Now, looking at all these dimensions to the conversation, because you also need your Ghana card to re-register for your SIM. I hear there's been some sort of extension and all of that. I think yes, maybe the point may be that the March thing and now June, we're trying to get a lot of people to rush and register. That's okay. But I think this must be a rolling thing. The SIM card re-registration and the Ghana card bit, it must be a rolling thing, because the way it's going, it doesn't look like, even in terms of resources, in terms of timeliness, we can achieve our target. So let's stop pressuring people. I've seen very old people going into long winding queues, getting upset and all of that. To what end?
But I think it is noteworthy, and of course worthy of mentioning this morning, that following the interventions by the telcos and then also the National Communications Authority, there's been a significant improvement in the registration processes. We are now seeing some of these registration officers going to companies, going to churches, going to schools, and so on and so forth. And so the pressure really is not so much on the outlets of the operators. However, having gone through the process for my telephone numbers, I think this exercise could have been done by myself in my house. I did not need to go and queue for anybody to do, because really, a mobile phone, taking pictures of my fingers. I can't take pictures of my fingers.
I mean, these apps and things, but I guess it's about the suspicion about whether maybe the people would be giving you the correct details. And you'll be in fingerprints, no BD, app. I mean, all of those come into play. But next time, don't get six different phone numbers.
Agenda. Please, I know how to say them.
You have, I think you even have 7.
One, 2 SIM.
Anyway.
2 SIM China.
Well, this is where we draw the curtains on the news review. Manuel Karate cracking me up. Coming up next, we have sports for you, and we'll be getting into our big stories on the AM show. Don't you go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back.